everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 9:30. It's time to go behind the hedges. I'm Mitch, and this here is my erstwhile companion, Mr. Ducati. Tell these people what they need to do, Matt.
Well, first you need to hit that subscribe button and that like button because it is Tuesday 9:30, and we all know you ain't got nothing better to do but sit here and listen to us run our mouths. But help us reach more people with the message and the truth, and consider subscribing and hitting that like button for us. It ain't gonna take you but 1 second.
Yeah, for real. And leave us a comment too. We might even read it on the air.
I don't know. Is it still open forum? Can you still click on the link and jump in the show if you feel froggy?
I believe that I should
bring that feature back.
I can't remember if I even shared the link, but I'll get it. It'll get up there. Look on the Facebook page. I'll get the link copied there pretty quickly.
So tonight, at the behest of our new friend, and hey, let's do a shout out for our boy.
Oh yeah, Robert. Yeah, we had Robert on last week. He was a podcast, Damn Good Dogcast. I'll get his website up here too. 1 second here.
Well, Robert tasked us with doing the Bayou Bengals, the Tigers of LSU for tonight's team capsule. And folks, I got to tell you, this one's going to be a little weird. This one's going to be a little tough. This one might follow a different format than any other team we're going to cover in the SEC. You want to tell them why?
Well, we like to do these capsules that preview, who's leaving a team, who's coming back on the team, what changes have been made in the offseason to affect the team, how good is the team going to be, what's the schedule of the team, what's the roster of the team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Normal stuff. The
normal stuff, but there's nothing at all normal about what's going on at LSU right now. It seems like you can't open up a newspaper without stumbling over some new late-breaking story. Just today in the USA Today, there was a write-up. There's an article that was published USA Today in December, and then it was added to for January and a few other times since then. And again, there a large print version today. And this was brought to my attention last night by Dren, who's a Very Orange live stream Dren, and actually he's here, so I'm going to bring him on, and we'll let him say his piece about all this kind of thing. He's got a little more insight into it than I do. So without further ado, there he is, the super genius Wiley.
What it is, what it
was, what it shall be, boys. So I unfortunately am double booked tonight, so I'm going to say my piece and then go. A couple days ago, Mitch asked his colleagues in Field of Streams to help him with a little background research into the LSU situation, and so I, being a former historian, I went through and started digging through articles and doing my due diligence and taking notes and things like that. And I'm going to be honest with you, the more I read, the more infuriated I got.
Yeah.
Really?
And there's some juicy stuff there.
I'm going to start calling out some names. There are three people in particular who Verge Osbury, Miriam Seeger, and Sharon Lewis. Verge Osbury is a deputy athletic director for LSU. Sharon Lewis is the assistant athletic director in charge of football recruiting, and then Miriam Seeger is a senior assistant athletic director.
So, these ain't like interns. These ain't rookies. These are some people who are embedded in the LSU athletic.
Verge Osbury is a former LSU player who came back and played pro ball for a little while and came back and worked at school. Here are the issues. There have been multiple incidences where assaults and sexual abuses have been reported directly to the LSU athletic department, but nothing was ever reported to Title IX compliance.
Right.
Not only
or made public knowledge.
Not only is that a violation of Title IX of the 1972 Educational Amendments to the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
It's also a Clary Act violation.
It's also a Clary Act violation from Clary Act of 1990. Thank you,
we touched on that in a couple earlier shows. Just whispered it.
Oh yeah. Well,
what does that mean? If I commit a Clary Act violation, what happens to me?
You get warned. You could lose your job. You could be fined. Your institution could lose financial aid. That's it. There are no criminal penalties in the Clery Act or Title IX. It's all tied in the money that if you're an institution that receives federal funds, you are required to do these things. And it goes back. I mean, Darius Weiss, it obviously is the big one. We know he accosted the grandmother at the Citrus Bowl in 2017. Just
so everybody knows, just hold on. We don't want to gloss over anything. In 2017, Darius Weiss allegedly approached a woman at the Citrus Bowl, and
working as a security guard.
She was a security. Okay, yeah. So she was a 74-year-old grandmother named Gloria Scott. I believe that's right, right? And he basically solicited her in a sexual manner, and she told his coach. She told Ordron, hey, this guy did this thing, and nothing happened, and She says she talked to Ordron, and Ordron it says that he never remembered talking to her. All right, so you pick up where you left off.
Okay, well, this is not the first time that Darius had been reported for anything. 2016, an athletic department student staffer named Samantha Brennan reported him. Apparently, he had a semi-nude picture that he had taken of her without her permission, and had been showing it around. And she reported him. The one that I found interesting besides Darius Weiss is a player named Drake Davis, and Drake Davis that we know of was accused of abusing at least two co-eds that he dated, one of which named Kalissa Richardson, who actually worked for Sharon Lewis in the athletic department and reported the incident to her directly. There was a young lady who was a tennis player. Her first name was Jasmine. I cannot think of her last name, unfortunately. Who it has been confirmed that he physically abused her. It took her father filing a complaint to get anything done. He was finally arrested in fall of 2018 and pleaded guilty to 2 counts of battery in 2019. Back in 2016, an unnamed co-ed complained to Verge Oxbury that she had been abused by Drake Davis. And literally, this is a direct quote from the USA Today report that was originally filed back in December, has been edited since many times. But he told her, "I don't want to hear it. Tell Sharon. It was either tell Sharon or tell Miriam." But nothing ever got filed with the Title IX department. I mean, I one thing I'm absolutely completely convinced is this with the stuff we found about Les Miles, we're continually finding about Les Miles is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, it's bad enough that these guys that these people did not do their job, did not do what they were supposed to, legally obligated to do, what they should have been morally obligated to do.
Yeah, I was going to say morally obligated.
Yes. I mean, both Sharon Smith and Verge Osbury were given raises and given promotions while all of this shit was going on. They knew about it. and they didn't. And they did nothing. Dave, I hope Dave Aranda. I hope you hear this, because there's a special place in hell for you, because you cannot tell me you did not know that this was going on. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I am a survivor myself. This to me is Sandusky level stuff.
Right. So the question we keep asking is, if it is, and it seems like it is, if it is, why is nothing being done? What is going on?
Why is nobody even talking about it? You're breaking news here. I mean, you probably could go digging and find this like you have.
And I did. It wasn't hard to find.
This should be the world should be on fire. They ain't talking about this on ESPN. This isn't on 24/7 Sports. Where is it?
Two stories. I think it's Channel 9 Baton Rouge came out today. One, that the feds are now probing LSU for Title IX violations, which basically was probably inspired by the USA Today report that began in December. And both Sharon Lewis and Vernon Oxbury have been suspended with pay. Sharon Lewis has just filed what looks to be a $50 million lawsuit against LSU, against Les Miles. Yeah, I held that one back, boys, in pregame. And LSU boosters, saying that she had been harassed ever since she took the job. And honestly, I mean, and these are extremely hyperbolic examples, but I'm gonna use them anyway. It sounds like, well, I was just following orders. Well, folks, that didn't work for the Nazis at Nuremberg, and it didn't work for William Cowley when he got court-martialed for melee. Mm-hmm. Okay, following orders is no excuse. There is a law beyond that of man. And if you're tasked, I mean, Mitch, you and I were teachers.
Yeah, there's a thing called turpitude.
Yes. Well, no, even beyond that, we don't report this shit. If we were aware, if this had been reported, we would be in jail.
To be honest with you, Drent, it sounds like you said these people weren't doing their jobs. It sounds to me like they were doing their jobs, and their jobs were to make these things go away. It seems to me like every one of these little violations, I won't say little violations, but every one of these little hiccups, whatever you want to call them, you see the same names attached to them. You see Verge's name in there. You see Sharon's name in there. And are they just like the goon hit squad that just like swoops in and lifts up the edge of the carpet and swoops everything under? Is that what they do?
Yeah, well, I mean,
do they have a culture of this at LSU? Is that what it is?
I think, and I think it goes back. I think it extends way back. I mean, the first big one we ever heard about was Cecil Diesel Collins back in '90. He finally got kicked off the team in '98. But he was there with Kevin Falk. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Sports Illustrated one time, or it may have been Sporting News, touted them the best backfield in college football one time, and he just was. I mean, he got convicted. He got kicked off the team for supposedly sexually assaulting a woman. And ended up doing time in prison because he got drafted by the Dolphins, but ended up doing time in a Florida pen because he broke into a woman's house and got caught watching her sleep.
Oh,
yeah. All right, let me ask you this real quick. Because I gotta get. Okay, you said there's no criminal liability for some of this. So how does this? If the hammer, what kind of hammer drops, and how does it play out? And second part of that question: when do we start seeing some movement on this?
I mean, the feds have just now said that they're getting involved. So we know we know that they love to move at a glacial pace. But
let me also add something though, because I know that in one of the articles I was reading, they said that the NCAA was sort of waffling between whether to punish the LSU football team and the LSU basketball team as separate entities, or if they were going to levy these punishments against the athletic department as a whole. And so
it's systemic. And so I think right. That's where it all begins.
So it seems that LSU is trying to encourage them to punish those entities separately. And NCAA is sort of like, well, and it seems like that every time they are about to open their mouths and make a decision, something else happens. It makes them.
But here's what Ducati's talking about. What the penalties could be. The individuals involved, the individuals who committed the violations for their inaction, lose their job. They can all be fined. They can be fined in the Clery Act. They can face punitive damages under the Clery Act. But I'm going to be honest with you. Until somebody grows a set and decides to put criminal consequences especially in the Clery Act, which that's where they should go. They'll never do it the Title IX. Nobody's going to do that. But the Clery Act, if they would add criminal penalties to the Clery Act, maybe some of the and we say to these people, if you do this if you don't follow this law, we're going to prosecute you and you're going to go to jail. So until they do that, until there's actual freedom removing life altering consequences, it's not going to do anything.
Is any of this going to affect the team, the football team?
The ultimate damage is this: LSU could lose millions in financial aid. That's not going to hurt the football team.
So that's going
to affect the kid. That's going to affect the kid. That's the only reason why he's there. He's on a Pell Grant.
Think about it like this: you got kids doing these things allegedly. Some of them we know they did, like the Drake Davis case. And the football team will not be affected because of that, even though he was on the field. Guys, same thing. But kids sell a ring or a jersey or take a car, and all of a sudden you're losing scholarships.
Beat up a kitten.
You're losing scholarships. You're going bowl ban. The team suffers because of benefits or money changed hand the wrong way, but you got guys committing sexual assault still being allowed to play. And what we're saying is that somebody knew and they still played and nothing happens.
Well,
I'm gonna call a big pile of horse shit in that.
Exactly. And here's the thing. I mean, I've read what I can as far as layman's terms on the law. This would probably be Dargan, our Arkansas friend, would do a better analysis of this because he is an attorney after all. But the as far as the punitive, the individuals themselves can be fined. The school could lose out on financial aid because the laws basically say if you receive any, and I mean any, financial assistance, finances law from the government, you are required to follow these. And ironically enough, it was a case out of Georgia, Gwinnett County. Someone filed a lawsuit in Gwinnett County that basically the Supreme Court said, they tried to argue, no, you can't penalize us for not doing anything, for not following through on an accusation. The Supreme Court said, oh hell yeah, they can, and they should. It's like I'd have to pull it up. I don't know. I've got about 20 tabs open at the moment. But it was like a case from 92 or something like that, where they had argued that, it was overreach to say that the federal government could fine them for non-disclosure.
Okay. Well, that clears up one thing. I guess we can still talk about what the football team may do, since it sounds like they're not going to miss a step.
Well, I think that we have to proceed as if none of this matters, right? Well, let me be clear on what I'm trying to say here.
Which is where I need to get the GTFO, because I hear that, and that just pisses me off.
Well, that's not what I mean to say. What I mean to say is, for the purposes of what we're trying to do, and that's make a prediction video, right?
As much as I enjoy, annoying the two of you about other things, I do not want to hijack your show.
I do have a question for you before we kick you out of here.
If it has anything to do with cat abuse, I'm leaving.
Kittens, man, come on. What are we doing?
Look,
I got a real question. Screw the kittens. Okay. Any bright spots coming out of Tennessee spring camp you want to talk about?
I think there's a definite attitude. There's been a good attitude overall, just a general attitude change.
What about Henry Toa?
I have not. He's, as far as I know, he is not reported spring practice yet. Anyway, though, Heupel has spent a lot of his play. Talks about what the things that his players are doing to improve. Pruitt just was poor mouthed everything, and so there's more of an aura of positivity around the program right now, which I think is a good thing. That's what they've got to do. It's just these idiotic things that these players keep doing. Our best offensive recruit is suspended indefinitely, Caden Salter.
Oh yeah, so that's
got here from Texas, and 2 weeks after 2-3 weeks after he gets here, he's on the shelf. I'm hoping that they can work something out, because I mean he's the future of the program, I think. But if he's gonna be a dumbass, I'd show him. I'd just say show him the door, send him back, kick his butt to Blinn. Let him go play for Blinn.
Well, I mean, if you're rebuilding from the ashes, and that seems to be what Tennessee is doing, you gotta make hard decisions sometimes. And so I like that you're saying that there seems to be positive vibes coming from this thing, and maybe that's the start of positive stuff, right?
Maybe you guys will be a feel-good story.
It honestly, even with just, and this is just like this kind of disbelief. It's not. It's just like I'm beyond saying bad or good or couldn't get worse. Honestly, it really couldn't. I mean,
are we going to see you and your partner back on the airwaves?
Yeah, I mean, Brandon and I just have to get hooked back up. I mean, I'm trying to recover from Beaver hatred, and I will say that this.
I'm sorry. What?
Beaver hatred.
What?
Oregon State.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
I will.
My mind was. You know what? I'm just.
Some people follow basketball.
I was 96% on my. I was 96% on my final women's bracket. I had never broken the 70s before.
No.
So I picked I did pick Stanford to win. So I got that. I was 100% going into the second day until the friggin' Mormons won.
Basketball, man.
Record.
Hey, all right, Dream. Listen, we're gonna cut you loose and run through these the nuts and bolts here after we've already had our steak. But you have a good one. Thank you for coming on the show.
Nice to see you again.
You too, Ducati.
All right, later on, dude. Okay.
All right, that clears up some things. A question before we had planned this out, we were going to talk about when the hammer drops, could we even talk about the football team? How's this going to affect the football team? According to Dren, these will be penalties if they come about that go towards the school and the administration, not necessarily the
financial aid department, things like that.
So, okay, if that's the case, then I guess we can say what, we've had a couple of guests on this show. When we brought up LSU, we were kind of sketchy about them. The two guests we asked were like, nah, they're going to be back. They're going to be bad. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be good. They're going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
Maybe so. I did read today that Mr. Eric Gilbert looks like he's going to land back at LSU after what I think a quote from Ed Orgeron himself. They had a very positive, productive meeting today in Baton Rouge. You know what that means.
It sounds like that he's having trouble getting in somewhere else, and he's like, "Daddy, can I come home?"
Yeah, pretty much.
But as of 9:51 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, April the 6th, Mr. Gilbert's name is still in the portal. So, speaking of which, let me go ahead. I'll go ahead and let's talk about this little thing I put together here, Matt. Sorry, here I'm gonna pause Robert's thing here so we can see. All right, 2020, LSU went 5-5. Huge disappointment after their national championship season, but not unexpected considering what they lost, right? So who are they gaining for 2021? Okay, so recruiting, they've done pretty well the past couple of years, 2 top 5 finishes. They got a 5-star defensive tackle, Mason Smith, who everybody wanted, including Georgia, and a 5-star safety, Sage Ryan, coming in. So those guys look to be pieces of the puzzle for LSU. Also returning in 2021, the quarterback situation, Brennan, Finley, and Johnson. All right, so they started the season with Miles Brennan. TJ Finley took over, didn't do much better, and then eventually they settled on Brad Johnson's son, and he sort of it was very similar in a way to what UGA went through, starting the season with Dwan Mathis, shifting to Stetson Bennett very quickly, and then eventually landing on JT Daniels. And so Georgia looked terrible, okay, and then pretty good as the season went on, right? Same kind of thing for LSU. So if you wanted LSU, you wanted them at the beginning of the year and not at the end of the year. Looks like they're going to be returning both offensive lines and both defensive lines. Both offensive and defensive lines. And don't forget that Derek Stingley, who's one of the best players in all of college football, will be back next year. Now, they are losing some notable players. Here they are up on the screen. Jabril Cox stands out to me. Terrace Marshall and Jamar Chase. Now these guys are actually they didn't play last year, so these guys opted out. But this would be the year that they are departing.
Yeah,
so
but dude, look, you've got all those names you can read, and then Eric Gilbert and 10 more other names you can't even read because you can't fit them on the screen.
Right,
that's a lot. Right.
So there are 11 players in the portal right now for LSU, and including Eric Gilbert as of this moment. So how will that pan out? I don't know. Who knows? He's already gone to Florida, left Florida. Is he going to Georgia? Maybe. Nope. Is he going back to LSU? I don't know. Who knows, man? Maybe he plays from Southeast Missouri State or something. Who knows? I suppose we'll find out in the coming days. But I also suppose we're going to find out a lot in the coming days about this particular program. I wanted to we'll circle back a little bit before we get off the air here and talk a little bit more about the drama, But before we do that, let's you want to take a look at the schedule real quick?
Let's do it. Let's see who they got.
Okay, so here's our schedule. So they're starting the season off September the 4th. They're going to UCLA. They're going to Pasadena. And they're playing UCLA. Pretty long trip for them, but I don't think that Pasadena, or rather UCLA, is. I don't know, Matt. What do you think? That are they at a level that can compete with the talent that LSU has?
UCLA needs to stick to basketball.
Okay, all right. So it is a non-con, Power 5 non-con game. So it will tell us a little bit about the Pac-12, and it could. Shoot, if UCLA wins this game and wins it convincingly, then maybe it tells us a little bit about LSU too, right? I expect LSU to win this one. Then you got McNeese State, Central Michigan. These are not, these are cupcakes. They're home games too, and so LSU is going to feast there. So after the first 3 games, LSU is most likely 3-0, though there is, I guess, a potential for them being 2-1. Then they get into their SEC, their conference games here, starting with Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State beat them last year, but this is not the same Mississippi State, and this is not the same LSU.
No, it's not the same. And Mississippi State, I told y'all this, what was it, last week or the week before? Mike Leach is an assassin. Assassins, they strike out of the shadows, and they usually only get you once. Mm-hmm. I don't know about this year. And you talk about the guys who think LSU is going to come back pissed off and motivated.
Here's a reason why they would.
Big reason why we all shit on LSU last year is because Mississippi State beat them in their own house first game of the season. Mm-hmm. This is a revenge game. I expect LSU to be 4-0 heading
into Auburn
to face Auburn.
Yeah. And, talking about home field advantages, Auburn's got a major home field advantage, but so does LSU. And since they're playing in LSU.
Tigers will win that game, though.
The Tigers will win. And I'm likely thinking that the home team Tigers are going to win, honestly. I think Auburn might be in a little bit too much disarray right now. Now, then you got LSU trying their hand at Kentucky. I don't know. I think that Kentucky might be the not quite ready for primetime team, and I think that LSU is primetime.
Okay, all right, but now wait a minute. We both said that we think Kentucky might be the team to beat Florida. Florida's primetime.
Are they?
Well, they're okay. They're not that 8 o'clock slot primetime TV, but they're like the 9 o'clock show.
Okay.
They're not late night TV. I mean, Florida's like the show that you're going to watch after you watch ER or whatever the hot show is today. I don't know.
All right. So let me ask it to you like this then. If I said that UCLA, McNeese State, Central Michigan, Mississippi State, Auburn, if I said that LSU was 5-0 coming into Kentucky, if I said, would you think that is a reasonable statement to make?
That is a reasonable statement.
Okay. If I told you that they were 5-1 coming out of Kentucky, would you think that is a reasonable statement?
They couldn't be 5-1 coming out of Kentucky. That'd be that. Oh yeah, they could. Okay. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. I think
it's reasonable. I mean, that one could come against UCLA. That one could come against Auburn. That one could come against Kentucky. So there's 3 teams on their schedule that are not like
starting September 25th, October 2nd, October 9th. In that 3-week span, they could catch a loss. And I would be surprised if it was Mississippi State and Auburn. I would be pleasantly surprised if it was Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that in the first half of their schedule, the first 6 games, is LSU going to catch a loss in the first 6 games?
Possible. Let's see. The football team may not get hammered with sanctions and all the punishments that a football team might suffer, but they might be distracted.
That's a good point.
This might be a distraction. This might be parents might get involved and say, "I'm sorry, son. I can't have you representing an institution like this." I mean, think about it from that angle.
Okay. So is it more likely? So this is just the question. Is it more likely that LSU, amidst all of this turmoil, goes undefeated in the first half of their schedule or catches a loss? Which is more likely?
I think it's more likely that they catch a loss.
I'm willing to agree with that. I don't know who that loss will be to, but I'm willing to agree with that. But then in the second half of their season, they pick up Florida, Ole Miss, and Alabama back to back to back.
Now we got trouble.
Yes. Is it possible that LSU could win all those games? Sure, it's possible, but I don't think it's very likely. All right.
I don't know.
In fact, I'm thinking that they are going to take 2 L's from those 3 games. One of them will be Alabama, and one of them will be either Florida or Ole Miss. You pick.
I'm going to agree with our guest from Florida, who did not feel – he felt actually pretty bad about having to go to Death Valley. And I don't see Florida beating LSU. I do not over there. If Florida was going to get them, it needed to be in the swamp this year when they had that high-octane offense. Florida's taking more steps back than people realize. They got to go to Death Valley, watch them make it a night game. Shit, that's a W for the Tigers. However, I will say this: we've been giving mad respect to Ole Miss. They got to go to Oxford. I don't know about all that. Now we got to start thinking attrition, and maybe distraction, and maybe fatigue, and maybe
you got to play Alabama next week. Right.
And the fact that Ole Miss just might be that good.
They are good. They are good, but it doesn't matter how good you are if you have to wade through Mississippi State, Auburn, Kentucky, Florida, Ole Miss back to back to back to back to back. That's a murderer's row. So yeah, I think in this first half of the season, I think LSU totes a loss. I think in the first 9 games of the season, I think LSU totes 3 losses.
So 6-3.
All right. So then they finish up the rest of their season with Arkansas. Is that Louisiana Monroe and Texas A&M. But they're all 3 home games. So can LSU cruise through the rest of their schedule and go 3-0 in the last 3 games?
Well, if some of our colleagues are to be believed, no, it has to be better than that, right? Because they went 5-5. You've already got them at 6-3. That ain't a whole lot better. They're not beating Bama. You can forget that. Where are we now? What's the record now? All right, let me paint this for you.
Well, we're after Alabama, so we're at Arkansas.
So
the final 3 games.
They've lost to. Let's just say they've lost to Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Alabama. They beat everyone else. I think they'll. I hate to say it, but I think they'll take Arkansas. I think they'll take Louisiana Monroe. Texas A&M is that question mark though.
Okay. Is it reasonable to expect LSU to drop one of their final 3 games, or are we thinking that question mark might be because we don't really know what A&M is bringing back next year? We don't know how good they're going to be. We don't know if LSU is going to be better at the end of the season.
That too.
It's a home game. You know, I'll say this: if you tell me that LSU is going to go 3-0 in their last 3 games, I would say that's a reasonable, considering that they're all home games and they'll be better at the end of the year. And they're not playing against the strongest opponents in Arkansas and ULM. Texas A&M stands to be pretty good, but I think that LSU also stands to be pretty good and might be just a talent issue. I'm going to settle on 8-4. 8-4 for my final LSU record.
I will say 9-3.
Okay. Be a lot of 9-3 teams next year. So I think that 8-4. I think that they'll catch an aggregate loss in there, something to do with distractions from all these shenanigans, and then they'll probably, maybe that comes to a team that they shouldn't lose to, sort of like Florida did to them last year.
They just got so much. They have, they lost a ton of people, but they got a ton coming back. You got both lines, quarterbacks, and one of the better players in the secondary in the nation. I mean, that counts for something. Those are the units that can get you on. That can get you maybe that tough road win that nobody saw coming. It's going to depend on the mentality of that squad. Not just the players, but the coaches. I mean, Ed Orgeron is implicated in one of these shenanigans. So where's his head going to be?
Speaking of which, look at this. Check this out. This is what I put together here before I read the USA Today article. And that was that there have been 3 NCAA violations, in addition to the thing with Darius Geis with the which would be the Clariac violation. And now the USA Today article has brought to light this name, Drake Davis. And there's several women's names attached to him. So the thing with Darius Geis could be the thing with Geis and Davis, right? But there was this kid, Vidal Anderson, whose dad James. Vidal played offensive guard for Les Miles. He was there from 2012, 2015. And his dad, James, this kid, Vidal Anderson, was from Buford, Georgia. All right, powerhouse high school football, Buford. James was offered a job and paid $180,000 for this job. And the job basically consisted of him not showing up or doing a darn thing and just making $180,000. Turns out that money was part of $500,000 that was embezzled by this booster named John Paul Funes, embezzled from a charity fund. All right. And so $180,000 of that went to this guy, James Anderson, and $320,000 of that is question mark. We don't know, right? But we do know that LSU has been penalized 8 scholarships for this infraction. This is the most serious of the NCAA infractions, so level 1 infraction. Those 8 scholarships. Now, this is where it gets sticky. So if they decide to punish the football team and the basketball team as under the athletic department as one thing, then those scholarships could be split between the basketball team and the football team. If they decide to punish them separately, then most likely the football team will shoulder the burden of those 8 scholarships lost there. Then, of course, you have the thing with Odell Beckham Jr.
Let me see it.
And we all saw that happen on national TV, right? That was at the end of the national championship game versus Clemson. Odell decided to go out and give $100 handshakes to several of the players. And
that looked like a little more than $100.
Oh, it probably
he need to come give me a handshake. What he need to do.
And LSU said, no, that was fake money. And then Joe Burrow said, no, that was real money.
Fake money.
And
fake?
So.
Oh, they fucking playing Monopoly over here.
So LSU proposed a bowl ban for the 2020 season, which is funny because at the time they proposed that ban, I think that they were they 3-5 at the time, or 2 and something. I don't know. They had a terrible record and said, you know what, we'll just sit out the bowl season this year. It's like, oh, how convenient for you to do so. Then there was a smaller thing with Coach Orgeron that was a recruiting violation that LSU actually self-reported, and all that did was cause them to have reductions in visits, communication, and evaluations. All right, so those are the three that the NCAA is looking at. Now the whole thing.
Clary Act earlier with Dren, so
yeah.
I don't know. We will. It doesn't seem like the big stink is all this sexual misconduct stuff going on, which almost seems at this point it seems like it's a cultural thing. But that is, according to what we talked about tonight, doesn't seem like there's going to be any ramifications for the team. Now those Class 1 and Class 3 violations, I think you underneath the punishment has already been meted out, so it won't affect them at all. Other than a distraction, every week in the news you got to hear about what a piece of shit your school is. Maybe that could creep into a kid's mind. I don't know.
Now there's one other thing that I saw in my reading. That was the oh gosh, I want to mess this up. I think it was called IRPA. IRPA, if I'm not mistaken. And IRPA is like basically the NCAA will give you an opportunity to cut your own switch, cut your own limb from the peach tree, spank yourself. And if you did a good enough job, they'll leave you alone and say, okay, case closed. But if you don't cut a big enough switch, then you got to go, cut another one, so to speak, or they'll cut it for you, right? Yeah. So I believe there could be some more weight dropped on the program from the NCAA if they don't think that the bowl ban and the reduced. They told OBJ that he can't come around the program for a couple of years, but OBJ said, he said, I wasn't the only one on that field handing out money. So, maybe this was a thing that's just, we're talking about culture. Is this a thing that
if this were Georgia, if all this was about Georgia, I'd be pulling my hair out. Nobody's talking about any of this stuff. Mm-hmm. So either we're overreacting and there's not going to be more to this than some stuff that's not going to affect the team, and that's why they're not talking about it, or we're the Watergate, reporters, and we're breaking. Yeah, we're breaking some knowledge that might go viral.
It's like Ethan said. Ethan said, we've had Coach Wilson. What's his name? The basketball coach, Wade. Is it Wilson? Is that his name? I don't want to say Wade Wilson because that's like Deadpool, right? but anyway, they've had the basketball coach on tape now for like 2 years, admitting to the violations, and nothing has happened. And so it's like, maybe when it comes to LSU, people are just like, they're not going to talk about it because nothing traditionally happens, and is the culture down there such that they're just so good at sweeping things under the rug that like people just know what's going on, but it's sort of like
that. Southern Louisiana is its own planet. They do things their way, and their way is different than our way and your way and everybody else's way. And that's just the way things. You want to go down there running your mouth about this too loud, there's plenty of swampland you can take up permanent residence in. It's that kind of. They definitely have that insulated, we're us, y'all need to leave us alone kind of thing going on, and that can permeate into football and politics and all sorts of crazy shit that goes down on that bayou down there. And
do you listen to Tom Segura, the comedian Tom Segura?
I have no idea who that is.
He told a joke one time. He said, talked about, we don't need to build a wall around Mexico. We need to build a wall around Louisiana so to keep out Cajuns.
Oh man.
And they say, well, where you gonna get your shrimp? I don't need it. I don't need shrimp. So I don't know, man.
Interesting. I think this show is going to have to end with a ... because if it is a cultural thing, then more things will come to light, and we'll have to see how that affects the program.
I think it's worth saying too, on top of what Dren was saying earlier about like the Clery Act, there not being real teeth in that act, as far as like criminal punishment. That is not to say that criminal charges couldn't be brought separately.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, an outside entity could, sue these people or whatever, they might catch some charges. We don't know. I thought that the way that Kansas let go of Les Miles and then turned around and fired the guy who hired him and burned it down, salted the ashes, get him out of town. It looked to me like Kansas was trying to distance themselves as much as possible.
And they may be. You may be right.
They knew that things were about to get bad, and they just wanted to be as far away as possible when the bomb went off. And maybe that is what's going to happen. But possibly it's taking its sweet time getting there.
Possibly to be continued. Of the teams we have left, because I got nothing else on it because it's pointless. We're gonna get another update here in an hour after we go off the air about LSU.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who we doing next week? Who do we got left?
We got Bama. We got Texas A&M. Is that it? Are those the last two?
Have we done? We did Mississippi. We did
both Mississippi schools.
We did Arkansas early.
Mm-hmm.
We did Auburn. We've done LSU. I guess it's Texas A&M and Bama. I think I kind of want to tackle the Aggies. We don't have a guest to pick for us, so I'm going to pick Texas A&M.
That sounds good to me. We'll save Alabama for last.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
I need to do some homework on A&M. I don't know a heck of a lot about them. I don't know.
It'll be fun to talk about because I think they're probably one of the more interesting teams in all of college football. Because Jimbo, I don't care what you think about him. God knows what he's doing. They got reamed by Bama early this past season. Everyone was like, "Yeah, he's done." And then they damn near made the playoffs. Had some blocks falling the right way, they would have been the second SEC team.
Yeah. Maybe.
So, I want to say Bama's the final boss. If you play video games like I do, there's bosses you have to fight. There's like mini bosses, sub bosses. Bama's that final boss. I want to attack that like Bowser. Bama is Bowser. So next week, let's do the Aggies and see what we can come up with for Jimbo and crew.
All right. Sounds good to me. Look, we made it under an hour.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If we could shave about 20 minutes off that thing, we probably would have more viewers. Speaking of those who are left, hit that subscribe button.
Oh, right. Check this out.
I'm ready to get back to some more of our news. So we got 2 more weeks of this team capsule stuff. And that's gotten us, heavily into spring. Then we're gonna have to. Then we have to reprioritize what we're gonna talk about late spring, summer.
Well, we'll have to talk about spring game too. Hopefully, we can get a little bit because this. Looking at the calendar here, if this is the 6th, that means that we should finish Alabama on the 20th. But the spring game is what, the 17th.
Mm-hmm.
We might need to do a spring game first and then save Alabama for a week and maybe let April close out.
If you folks remember Caleb, I'm trying to get my old cousin from Eufaula back on the show. Yeah. See if he can give us some insight. But no, Texas A&M next week. I'm looking forward to that.
All right, cool beans, man. Wait. Somebody just said tried to get on just using my phone, but things didn't. G-Haul. Have no idea who that is.
How do we get them to be able to show their face?
They have to approve. It says it in the instructions. They have to read the instructions. That's all there is to it.
Listen,
you got to give Facebook permission.
Read the instructions.
All right, but that's it, folks. I've enjoyed it. we'll meet. We'll do this again Tuesday. But this time we're talking about the Aggies. Maybe I can find somebody, dig up somebody who knows a little bit about them.
I don't know nobody out there except my 85-year-old grandma, and she ain't gonna be able to hear neither one of us, so that ain't gonna happen.
Perfect. Sounds great. All right, Matt. Well, hey, man, it's been fun as always.
Yeah. And, next week we're going to Texas.
All right. Peace out, everybody. We'll see you next time.